The handouts or review materials must be treated with utmost confidentiality. It shall be the responsibility of the person whose name appears therein that the handouts or review materials are not photocopied or in any way reproduced, shared, or lent to any person or disposed in any manner. Any handouts or review materials found in the possession of another person whose name does not appear therein shall be prima facie evidence of violation of RA 8293. Top-notch review materials are updated every 6 months based on the current trends and feedback. Please buy all recommended review books and other materials.
Okay, now we go to the head and neck. Pay attention with the topic of head and neck, since majority of surgery students find this topic a little hard than the other organ systems in surgery. And in the last boards, if I may recall, the feedback from the students, there were lots of questions coming from this chapter. Okay, let's answer this case. A 33-year-old female noted a 4 days history of discharge from a sinus in the overlying skin below the right angle of the mandible. She recalls previous episodes of fullness and mild pain in this region over the past several years. What is the most likely cause? So when one is faced with a head and neck condition, okay, we apply what we call the rule of 7, ascertaining or in narrowing our list of differentials. Okay, so from inflammatory, neoplastic, and congenital disorders. Okay, the case is not compatible with what a thyroglossal duct cyst is, which usually presents as an anterior neck mass. What we have here is a draining sinus. There is a discharge coming from a sinus that is located in the lateral side of the neck, just below the angle of the mandible. And this condition has been there for several years, according to the case. Okay, it is not compatible with how trauma presents in the neck, myeloma and teratoma, and that gives us bronchial cleft anomaly as our best choice. Okay, so this is the rule of 7. It provides a probable diagnosis of the neck mass based on the average duration of the patient's symptoms. Just by looking at how soon or chronic the problem has been there, you will be able to narrow down your list of differentials. 7 days, more likely it's an inflammatory lesion like an abscess or cellulitis. 7 months, think of a neoplasm. A neoplasm can either be benign or a malignant lesion. Not all neoplasms are malignant, of course. Okay, and then for 7 years, like in the case, okay, most likely this is a congenital disorder. Okay, the most common congenital disorder that can affect the head and the neck is this one, thyroglossal duct cyst. It represents residual thyroid tissue left behind during its descent, during its development. We know that the origin of the thyroid gland is at the foramen cecum of the posterior third of the tongue, and then it descends in the midline of the neck until it reaches its final position, where the isthmus, the part of the thyroid that connects the right and the left lobe, lies anterior to the second, the third, and the fourth tracheal ring. Sometimes during this descent, it leaves an upward extension. In some individuals, about 50%, we call the pyramidal lobe. So in a thyroglossal duct cyst, okay, this tract sometimes fail to obliterate completely. And since it is epithelial lined, it can produce a secretion leading to what we have now, a cyst. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng cyst. It's a mass lesion that contains fluid. It presents as midline neck mass, usually children. 80% occurs at or just below the hyoid bone. And a KPI finding is that it moves up and down with swallowing or with protrusion of the tongue because of that embryologic origin. Its surgical significance is that it may become infected. Although it contains only 5% functioning thyroid tissue, okay, although only 5%, it is a must that before one removes a thyroglossal duct cyst, one needs to subject the patient to thyroid imaging, no, to make sure that there is another site of functioning thyroid tissue. You do not want to put your patient in an athyroid state. Okay, if this is the only functioning thyroid tissue a child does have, okay, which is usually true in patients with lingual thyroids, okay, but not in a congenital thyroglossal duct cyst. The management, okay, the definitive management for thyroglossal duct cyst is called a cyst trunk operation. No? A cyst trunk operation is nothing but an en bloc excision of the cyst. It's struck up to the posterior third of the tongue, its origin, together with the central portions of the hyoid bone, no, in one specimen. No? Pag sinabing unblock excision, ang specimen mo isa lang, no? It's a monoblock specimen. It's not removed in a piecemeal fashion. So yun ang cyst trunk operation. The cyst, it's struck up to its origin, the posterior third of the tongue, as well as the central portions of the hyoid bone. Next is bronchial cleft anomalies. No, there are several types. Okay, the most common, okay, like the case we've answered a while ago, is a second bronchial cleft anomaly. And being congenital, they usually present on the pediatric age group, no, first decade of life. Okay, so these clefts are actually fistula, meaning they have two openings. Okay, if there is only one opening, that's what we call a sinus. No? It's a blind ending canal. When there are two openings, okay, and they are connected to each other by a canal or a duct, we call that a bronchial cleft anomaly. In the case, the external opening is just located lateral to the neck, no, at the sternocleidomastoid muscle. If you trace it internally, you'll end up at the tonsillar fossa in a patient with a second bronchial cleft anomaly. If that is a third bronchial cleft anomaly, the internal opening is situated in the piriform sinus. No? The piriform sinus is that blind ending pouches located left and right just above the laryngeal inlet. While in a first, the external opening is located in the preauricular area, and then internally it ends in the middle ear. Okay? The treatment here is complete excision, no, that sometimes require what we call as a stair-step incision. Now, you are actually following the track created by the fistula entirely from its external to its internal opening. Otherwise, an incomplete excision will lead to recurrence or persistent drainage, no, in the skin. Okay? So, some sort of a fistulectomy is done, okay, in patients with bronchial cleft anomalies. When we say fistulectomy, the entire fistula is excised. No? In contrast to fistulotomy, like what we do in fistula in ano, okay, we will discuss that when we reach the level of the colon, rectum, and anus, wherein the fistulous tract is just laid open. Okay, it is unroofed, but the floor of the fistula remains. In here, the entire fistula must be removed, hence it's called a complete excision. Another is cystic hygroma. This results from maldevelopment and obstruction of lymphatic system or sequestrations of lymphatic tissue that develops and does not communicate with the lymphatic system. Okay, so parang separate system siya, no, na naging cystic hygroma. They may extend, okay, down to the axilla or even the mediastinum because of the fascial extensions. No? May mga connection kasi ang neck pababa ng axilla, no, yung axillary sheath, or sa mediastinum, no, doon sa substernum space at saka sa retropharyngeal space. Hanggang mediastinum yun, no? Kaya may tinatawag na danger space sa neck. Yung mga infection sa neck, pwedeng bumaba yun, no? As far down the mediastinum, causing mediastinitis. Physical examination of a hygroma would reveal, okay, a soft compressible non-tender mass or masses usually located in the lateral or posterior triangle of the neck. And since this is made of soft tissue, MRI is the imaging modality of choice. Okay, so there are several options of management. Okay, some are non-operative, but the preferred treatment is complete surgical resection. Okay, So yun yung mga ginagamit na sclerosing agent, no? Yung OK432 and bleomycin, they are infiltrated, no, in the area of the hygroma, hoping that it would sclerose or will collapse. Neoplasms of the head and the neck, no? The clinical manifestations, as we see in the table, obviously will depend on where the primary anatomic area is. Example, okay, when the neoplasm is located in the anterior oral cavity, no? Ang oral cavity kasi merong division, ano? Pag sinabing oral cavity per se, no, strictly speaking, it begins from the vermilion border of the lip externally, and then internally, superiorly at the hard palate soft palate junction, inferiorly at the sulcus terminalis, no? That's where the anterior 2/3 of the tongue ends. Okay, kasi behind that or more posterior to that would be the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So ibig sabihin, ang tongue merong oral cavity part, meron din siyang oropharyngeal part. And then laterally, the oral cavity ends at the anterior tonsillar pillar, created by the palato, okay, glossus muscle or the so-called palatoglossal fold. Okay? So, superiorly at the hard and soft palate junction, inferiorly at the sulcus terminalis, and then laterally at the palatoglossal fold, sometimes we call the anterior tonsillar pillar. Okay? So, kung nandoon yung neoplasm, obviously it would present as a fleshy exopitic mass, some with hip up margins, okay, some associated with pain, tooth loosening, or impairment of tongue mobility if it has gone beyond its primary site. No? For example, there is already invasion of the muscles of mastication or the floor of the mouth, like the mylohyoid muscle. At the tonsillar fossa or at the retromolar trigone. No? Pag sinabing retromolar trigone, ito yung area behind the third molars. Okay? There would be trismus with infiltration of the pterygoid muscles, no? An important muscle of mastication. In the larynx, obviously, there would be hoarseness, dysphagia because of its close relationship with the upper digestive tract, no? The esophagus, dyspnea, pain, and cervical lymphadenopathy. So, you will see from the table that the presentation would be predicted by the anatomic region, no, by where the neoplasm is originating, no, down to the salivary glands. For example, no, ang largest of the major is the parotid, and we know the location of the parotid is just in front of the external ear, okay, or lateral to the vertical ramus of the mandible. So patient usually presents with an asymptomatic firm lump. There may be skin or mucosal ulceration. There may be paresthesia, no, meaning involvement of the branches of the trigeminal nerve, no, ophthalmic maxillary mandibular, or paralysis, no, kasi may isa lang ang motor nerve supply ng muscles of facial expression, si facial nerve, and nagkataon si facial nerve dumadaan, no, within the substance of the parotid gland. In fact, it divides the parotid into a superficial and a deep lobe. So kung meron kang sizable neoplasm that compresses or invades these branches, nakikita yan objectively via PE. And then of course, may cervical lymphadenopathy. Okay? So let's begin with benign lesions at the lip. No? The lower lip is usually subject to chronic irritation. It may house a spectrum of lesions anywhere from dysplasia, hyperkeratosis, okay, parakeratosis, dyskeratosis, carcinoma in situ, to invasive carcinoma. Okay? The problem is, okay, when a patient arrives with any of this lesion, we do not know where in the spectrum, no, that scaling lesion is. No, that is usually presenting as a scaling lesion. Minsan ang tawag natin dyan, leukoplakia if it's a white patch, or erythroplakia if it appears erythematous or reddish. Okay? And since inability to rule out that scaling lesion, okay, is not carcinoma in situ or invasive carcinoma, something minimum of a biopsy must be done. No? Ibig sabihin, hindi mo pwedeng i-neglect, no, yung scaling lesion na iyon. Okay? And that is why the treatment of choice is a wide excision with or without reconstruction. When we say wide excision, pag sinabi kasing excision, tinanggal mo lang yung lesion. Pag nilagyan mo ng qualifier na wide, ibig sabihin you are incorporating a rim, no, a surrounding rim of normal tissue, okay, to the lesion. Okay, bakit kailangan mo magsama ng normal tissue? So that you can differentiate in situ from invasive carcinoma, no? Alam natin sa pathology, pag sinabing carcinoma in situ, ito yung mga malignant neoplasms that hasn't violated or breached the basement membrane. Okay? If there is already violation of that critical layer or structure, we call it an invasive carcinoma. Okay. Now, the need for reconstruction will depend on how wide the resulting defect is following a wide excision. No? We're talking of the lower lip here. It is said, no, that excision of 1/3 to about 1/4, okay, of the transverse diameter of the lower lip can be closed primarily. Sabihin, tatahiin mo lang, no? It will not result to cosmetic abnormality. Pero beyond that, let us say, malaki yung lesion. After wide excision, half of the lower lip will be removed. Okay? That can't be closed primarily, okay, because it would result to disfigurement. No? Kailangan takpan mo yan ng either flap, okay, donor, to reconstruct, okay, the area of the gap or the wound. Hence, you have here an option for with or without reconstruction. You will see examples of that later. Benign lesions in the oral cavity, we have mucus retention cysts. This refers to submucosal accumulation of mucus. Most are due to rupture of the ductal system rather than ductal obstruction. May mga ducts pala dyan, ano, sa mucosa ng oral cavity. Ito yung mga minor salivary glands. Okay? They are typically less than 1 centimeter, smooth, rounded, and with bluish hue, just like the one in the picture, this one. Okay? And the bigger variant, no, the picture below, is called a ranula, no, which is a mucus retention cyst involving the sublingual gland. No? The sublingual gland is one of the 3 major salivary glands. No? We have parotid, submandibular, and sublingual. Ito si sublingual gland, no? Nandoon sa floor ng mouth, lateral sa lingual frenulum, which is located in the midline. Okay? So, ang treatment dyan ay either excision or marsupialization. Excision, if it's small, it will not involve any neurovascular structures. Or in a case of ranula, since this is big and merong nerve sa ilalim niyan, ano, yung lingual nerve at saka hypoglossal nerve, you don't want to involve these nerves in the excision knowing it is a benign condition. Okay? Ginagawa lang yun sa mga malignant oral cavity lesion. So, it would be enough to just marsupialize, okay, open the cyst, evacuate its content, and then suture its periphery in the floor of the mouth. So, it would prevent coaptation, no? Recoaptation of the margins and recurrence of the cyst. Next, epulis. No? This is a granulomatous lesion, a result of an exaggerated inflammatory response. There are 2 variants, congenital, usually located in the anterior maxilla or the upper dentition, and then we have that one occurring in pregnant patients, no? Epulis gravidarum. Okay, the good thing about this is that it resolves spontaneously. It only requires excision if symptomatic. Okay, so meron tayong general rule na sasabihin, ano, in a head and neck lesion, you may not intervene, no? You may opt to conservatize, okay, any lesion, provided 1, it's asymptomatic, 2, it is completely benign. No? You're sure 100% you're not dealing with a malignancy. And so therefore, okay, a minimum of a biopsy, okay, ibig sabihin may gagawin ka, no, surgically, must be done in cases you can't rule out malignancy. Okay, a minimum of a biopsy or excision of a lesion when it is already symptomatic. Like for example, in this, no, kung yan masakit, no, nagbi-bleed, okay, so meron kang indication to intervene surgically. Kung walang symptoms, okay, and yung lesion ay completely benign. Okay? Ang recommendation doon, most of the time, is just to conservatize, no? Observe. Okay? Next, giant cell reparative granuloma. There are two variants, peripheral and central. No? Peripheral is the soft tissue in origin, while central is of osseous or bony origin. They may be polypoid, submucosal, and fibrous. They may ulcerate and bleed, requiring excision. While in a central reparative granuloma, since it's osseous by origin, hindi mo basta pwede i-excise yan, no? Kasi hindi ka naman magtatanggal ng maxilla o kaya ng mandible for a benign lesion. Okay? If you look at its behavior, it's expansile. Okay? Meaning lumalaki, no? Nag-i-infiltrate, though it is a benign disorder. So, ang treatment dito ay hindi maxillectomy and mandibulectomy but just simple curettage. Granular cell myoblastoma. Now, this is a rare benign tumor of the tongue derived from the Schwann cell. Okay, take note, it's not just limited to the tongue, no? Pwede ring makita yan sa ibang sites basta merong Schwann cells. Kanya lang in the tongue, this is its favorite spot, no? Middle third of the tongue, presenting as a firm submucosal swelling. And because of that location, you can't totally rule out it's not squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue, no? Kasi ito rin ang favorite spot ng squamous cell carcinoma ng tongue. Hence, something must be done in a form of a biopsy. Okay, hindi pwedeng basta observe. Okay? So, wedge excision. Ito ay isang form ng wide excision din. Or pwede niyang palitan yung term, no? Pwede niyang ilagay diyan partial glossectomy. Okay? That is still wedge excision, no? Removing a triangular tissue here that surrounds the lesion that would give you enough biopsy specimen, no, for histopathology. Okay? And of course, the defect may either be closed primarily or left open depending on how wide the resulting gap is. Ulcerative lesions may be in the form of aphthous ulcer, pemphigus vulgaris, necrotizing cyalometaplasia, white sponge nevus, lichen planus, and oral hairy leukoplakia. Okay, so as a group, common sa kanila mag-present as an ulcerating lesion. Okay, the problem is, squamous cell carcinoma may also present as an ulcerating lesion. Okay, hence, they are needed to be biopsied, no, to rule out carcinoma. Kasi ang most common malignancy that can affect, no, the head and the neck region is a squamous cell carcinoma. Yan ang pinaka-common, no, sa head and neck. Although it usually resolves spontaneously, okay, otherwise treated with steroids. That's how we do it in medicine, no? Yung mga idiopathic condition, tinitreat ng wonder drug, steroid, without really knowing, no, the etiology. Okay, mas importante itong behavior na to, no, ma-rule out. Kasi ang squamous cell carcinoma, pwedeng fungating, pwedeng excavating, ulcerating. So you need to rule that one out. How do you do that? Perform a biopsy. What form of biopsy? If you're dealing with the oral cavity, for example, gingiva, paano ba iba-biopsy yun? By a punch biopsy under local anesthesia. In the nasal cavity, we have polyps, squamous papilloma, and juvenile nasopharyngeal angiofibroma as benign lesions. Okay, they may cause nasal obstruction, so that is already a symptom necessitating surgical intervention in the form of excision. So kung wala naman siyang obstruction, hindi nagbi-bleed, hindi nag-ulcerate, hindi masakit, yung nasal polyp at saka squamous papilloma, pwedeng i-conservatize. Okay. But unlike the last variant, no, juvenile nasopharyngeal angiofibroma, take note, no, it is a highly expansile and destructive fibrovascular neoplasm. Okay. Take note again, no, this is a benign lesion, but if you look at its behavior, okay, it is as if a malignant one. Okay, it's infiltrative, destructive, no, resulting to massive bleeding at times. Okay, they are typically affecting adolescent males. So take note of that patient group. No, kung meron kang adolescent male nag-present with massive epistaxis, isa dapat ito sa differential diagnosis mo. Now, if this technique is available, this should be the treatment of choice kasi ito, minimally invasive ito no? Angioembolization, no? Mag-angiogram ka muna, hahanapin mo nasan yung contrast extravasation, and then kung na-detect na ng fluoroscopy, okay, magde-deploy na ng mga embolizing agent yung interventional radiologist. Okay, ito talaga ang treatment of choice if available. Okay, kasi massive yung bleeding, no? Hindi lahat ng epistaxis ay massive. In fact, karamihan ay nagre-resolve, no, spontaneously, no? The usual source, as we know, ay galing sa anterior septum, no, sa anterior plexus. Minsan tinatawag na Little's area or Kesselbach's plexus. So madaling i-control ang bleeding diyan, no, by simple finger compression. Maaabot mo ito Problem is if the bleeding is coming from behind the septum, hindi mo abot ng daliri yan, yung posterior plexus or Woodruff's plexus, usually seen among elderly hypertensives. So paano kinokontrol yan, no? Bleeding coming from the posterior nasal septum is treated or addressed by combining anterior and posterior nasal packing. Okay, naglalagay ka ng mga compressive materials doon, okay? Kahit inflatable balloon, okay, whatever material you have available or rolled gauze, so long as it will affect, no, tamponad in the area or the source of the bleeding, okay, that is how it is addressed, okay, initially, okay, to control the source of the bleeding. Of course, ang last approach is if angioembolization and anterior and posterior nasal packing fails to control the bleeding, kailangan mo na ng manual, okay, control, no, by opening the nasal cavity. Paano ginagawa yon? So you see in this picture a red line that connects, okay, A or B and then letter C, a lateral rhinotomy incision extended to the upper philtrum of the lip and then to the ipsilateral gingivobuccal sulcus of the bleeding side, such that after doing such an incision, you can literally open the nasal cavity like this and then manually address the source of the bleeding. Okay, so the entire procedure is called a Weber-Ferguson procedure. Pero syempre, treatment of last resort yan, no? Kasi may mga available ng lesser invasive approaches. An 85-year-old hypertensive man is evaluated in the ER for recent onset epistaxis. His BP is 150/80, hematocrit 39%. The most likely source of the bleeding, as discussed, is coming from the posterior nasal septum. Okay, let's go down to the larynx. Okay, so benign lesions, we have papilloma and laryngocele. A papilloma usually arise from the true vocal cord. It presents with hoarseness, obviously. The juvenile type usually recur after treatment. So, mas poor ang prognosis ng juvenile papilloma. Okay, its treatment can either be in the form of excision or laser ablation. So, we have here mga CO2 vaporization, KTP laser, and DIAG. Okay, so those kinds. Okay, if you're suspecting malignancy, it is better to excise the lesion to provide you with a tissue, no, for examination. You won't have that if you elected, no, for a laser technique or a laser ablative technique. Laryngocele pertains to herniation of the laryngeal ventricle, okay, related to chronic increases in intralaryngeal pressure. Okay, the laryngeal ventricle is a depression, no, in between the false vocal cord above and the true vocal cord below, no. So present yan both left and right. So like in this picture you are looking at, okay, in the slide, okay, yung isang side ng laryngeal ventricle nagkaroon ng herniation, no, nagkaroon ng bulge. Okay, lumabas siya dun sa kanyang depression because of chronic increases in intralaryngeal pressure. So kung hindi naman nag-o-obstruct ng airway yan or hindi nakaka-affect ng voice, wala namang ginagawa dyan. Okay? So kung meron ng symptom of hoarseness, okay, lalo na kung may obstruction na ng airway, something must be done, no, in the form of ligation of the stalk and then repair of the ventricle. So parang it is being treated like a hernia, no? Kasi herniation of the laryngeal ventricle, ligation of the stalk, repair of the floor of the ventricles. Odontogenic tumors. Okay, so they arise from progenitors of tooth development that can involve the upper and the lower dentition or the maxilla and the mandible. Okay, they are treated conservatively unless it is of this variant, no? Ameloblastoma, or historically called adamantinoma, arise from the dental lamina. They are usually seen in patients with impacted tooth. They present with a painless mandibular mass that may erode the bone cortex. Now, remember, ang mandible, meron siyang outer cortex and inner medulla. Okay? Yung inner medulla or medullary cavity, nandun yung marrow, nandun yung mandibular canal, no? Doon dumadaan yung inferior alveolar nerve. So kung nandun lang siya sa outer covering or layer, okay, tawag natin doon bone cortex. Okay? So paano nakikita yan? No? Maganda makita yan sa dentascan. Okay? Ito, like nakikita natin sa taas or yung tinatawag na panorex. Okay, pag sinabing dentascan, it's a CT scan, no, of the whole dentition. Okay? Showing you the entire set, no, yung upper at saka lower dentition. Now, in the dentascan or in the panorex, okay, this is the classic appearance of an ameloblastoma, no? It reveals a multilocular, ibig sabihin hindi lang isa, okay? Radiolucent, ibig sabihin kulay itim, okay? Kaya ang tawag ay soap bubble sign. Okay? And then as the surgeon, no, or the ENT looking into this case, you have to take note of the extent of the lesion. Nasa isang cortex lang ba siya o from cortex to cortex like this one in the picture? No, remember, ang origin nito dental lamina, kung saan nakasuksok yung ipin. Ibig sabihin, if you catch this patient early, pwedeng yung upper cortex lang ang involved. If that is so, no, if only the upper cortex is involved, a segmental mandibulectomy will suffice. Aalisin mo lang yon, no, yung upper cortex. But in this picture, as you can see, yung lucency, yung multilocular lesion, no, umabot hanggang sa lower cortex. There's no way you can remove this via a marginal mandibulectomy. No? The only way to remove it is to remove it segmentally. Okay, segmental mandibulectomy like that, okay, that will leave a defect in the mandible. That necessitates reconstruction, no? Kasi hindi naman pwedeng iwanan mo yung gap na yon. Ano mangyayari, no? Magkakaroon ng deformity yung pasyente, no? Ganito yung tawag doon, no? Anti-gump deformity, wherein the oral cavity always communicates with the atmosphere, no? Nagtutulo ng laway yan kasi walang coverage. Okay? So the moment you perform a segmental mandibulectomy, a reconstruction to cover or to seal, okay, in a watertight function, the oral cavity is a must. No? You do not want a patient suffering from anti-gump deformity with salivary fistula. No? Yung tulo lang ng tulo yung laway. Okay? Nagda-dry up pati, no, yung oral cavity kasi open siya. A 24-year-old notes a progressive increase in the size of his left jaw. After x-rays are taken and a biopsy is done, a diagnosis of ameloblastoma is established. What should be the next step in the management? Okay, so parang binalikan natin yung case kanina. Ito yung diagnosis mo, ameloblastoma, no, confirmed by x-ray and biopsy. Pwede ba siya via RT? No. Pwede ba siya via laser beam therapy? No. Kaya ba yan ng simple curettage and bone graft? No? Kanina, ang option natin is segmental and marginal mandibulectomy lang. No? So, hindi pwede ito. No? Uulit yan. Excision of the lesion with a 1 to 2 cm of normal mandible seems to be the best answer. Okay, let's check E. Mandibulectomy with bilateral radical neck dissection. That makes letter E wrong. No? There is no indication to perform neck dissection in this case. Why? Because we perform neck dissection only in malignant disorders. Ano ba ang purpose ng neck dissection? Ang purpose ng neck dissection ay i-treat, okay, or prophylactically remove yung cervical lymph nodes. Kasi yan ang next station of invasion, di ba? Sa TNM classification, after the primary site, letter T, yung tumor, saan siya pupunta? Sa nodes, sa lymphatic drainage. And after doon, sa letter M, sa systemic sites. No? Kaya nga tayo may TNM staging for carcinoma. No? Ganun kasi ang behavior ng carcinoma. Oh, by the way, pag sinabing carcinoma, ito yung mga malignant neoplasms originating from epithelial linings or epithelial tissue. In this case, the oral cavity. Okay? As opposed to sarcoma, no? Another family of neoplasms, malignant neoplasms. Pag sinabi mong sarcoma, these are malignant neoplasms arising from the mesenchyme, okay, or the soft tissues. So, bakit kailangan ng ganung delineation? No? Tandaan natin, magkaiba ang behavior ng carcinoma sa sarcoma. Si carcinoma, diniscuss na natin paano siya mag-behave, no? From the primary site, pupunta sa lymphatic drainage, bago maging systemic. Si sarcoma, hindi niya fina-follow yan. Okay? Kasi nga, galing ng mesenchyme yan at ang mesenchymal tissues, wala namang lymphatic drainage. Ibig sabihin, ang way of spread ng sarcoma ay direct hematogenously. Okay? So, ano implication niyan sa atin, no? Sa pag-aaral ng surgery? Pag alam mo na sarcoma yung lesion, hindi mo kailangang mag-include ng lymphadenectomy. Kasi chances are, wala naman siya doon. Okay? Pero pag carcinoma yung pathology, dapat may gawin ka sa draining lymphatics. No? Hindi pwedeng papabayaan mo lang yung lymph node. Kasi laging nandun yung risk, laging nandun yung threat ng lymph node invasion. Hence, the TNM. Okay? So, I hope clear yun. No? Kasi mamaya, magagamit natin ulit, no, yung principle na yan, no, pagdating natin sa mga malignant lesions. Okay? So, the answer here is letter D, excision with 1 to 2 cm of normal mandible. In malignant head and neck tumors, okay, so here are the commonly accepted risk factors. No? So we have tobacco use, alcohol consumption being the two most significant, and then we have nutritional deficiencies states, immunosuppression, okay, viruses like human papilloma virus and Epstein-Barr, okay, occupational exposures to the following chemicals, advancing age, at saka low socioeconomic status. Okay? Yung head and neck squamous cell carcinoma, no? Kasi nga again, squamous cell carcinoma ang most common histology, no, ng malignancy sa head and neck. Hinahati yan, no, into two groups. 80%, meaning majority of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma are HPV minus. Ibig sabihin, not associated with the human papilloma virus. Only 20% will be associated with the virus. Okay? And looking at these two, you will see that the HPV-associated head and neck squamous cell carcinoma has a more favorable prognosis. So medyo sad yan, ano? Kasi yung majority, no, 80% of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma are associated with a poorer prognosis. Bakit? Kasi wala kang target, no? Walang human papilloma virus causing it. And what caused it? Mutation. Okay? So dyan usually na-observe ang mga P53 mutation. So look at the table, okay? Mga important differences between HPV negative and positive head and neck squamous cell carcinoma. Okay? So poorer prognosis, yung HPV non-associated. Better prognosis, yung HPV associated. Okay? And this is how the epithelium. No? Ano ba epithelium sa head and neck? Most of it, squamous epithelium. No? Stratified sa ibang sites like yung skin, sa oral cavity. Okay? Pinagkaiba lang kung keratinizing or non-keratinizing. Okay? So, ang normal epithelium, mostly ng head and neck, ay stratified squamous epithelium. Okay? Pag yan nag-undergo ng multiple mutations, take note, no? Ang key word doon ay multiple, no? Hindi enough ang isang mutation lang to transform it from normal to a malignant neoplasm capable of spreading or metastasis. Okay? So pinakikita natin yung model na ito kasi ganito sa lahat ng sites. Okay? We know na ang carcinoma nanggagaling sa normal epithelium. No? Unang na-define ito sa colon. No? Kaya may tinatawag doon na adenoma, carcinoma, sequence. no? Yung columnar epithelium ng colon, nagde-develop ng polyp, and then yung polyp na yon, pag maraming dinaanang mutation yon, okay, eventually nagiging carcinoma or adenocarcinoma. Ganon din sa head and neck. Okay? Ang important difference ay ito, no? Ito ang kailangan yung tandaan. Sa adenoma carcinoma sequence ng colon and rectum transition, no, from normal to malignant, okay, yung P53 mutation occurs late, nasa dulo na, no, ng sequence. Ang pinakamaaga doon is APC mutation, no, yung mutation to the adenomatous polyposis coli gene located at chromosome 5q21. Yung P53 mutation happens late, okay? I-compare mo ngayon yung head and neck, no? Sa head and neck, yung P53 mutation happens very early. Okay? Nandun siya sa pinakaumpisa. Okay? And that transforms the normal into what we discussed earlier, no? Yung patch, no? White patch or red patch. Pag hindi pa natapos yan, no? Nag-undergo pa yan ng mga several mutations, okay? That will affect the entire field. Merong implication ito, no, pagdating sa ating investigation. Explain ko mamaya anong ibig sabihin ng field cancerization effect. And then chromosomal aberration follows, and then malignancy capable of metastasis. Okay? So ang key summary niyan, okay, remember yung timing ng P53 mutation sa head and the neck, at saka yung need for multiple mutations to happen. Okay, so kung yung pasyenteng yan nagkaroon na ng P53 mutation, tuloy-tuloy pa ding na-expose sa risk factor like smoking and alcohol use or abuse, hindi malayong mag-continue, no, yung spectrum para maging malignant, no, in the end. Okay, so evaluation. In the history and the PE, we look at signs, okay, or symptoms of advanced disease like otalgia, odynophagia, bleeding, hoarseness, trismus, dysphagia, loss of hearing. Must examine the entire aerodigestive tract because of the 5 to 7% risk of synchronous tumors. Pag sinabi mong synchronous, okay, may isa pang tumor diagnosed at the same time at a rate of 5 to 7%. Ibig sabihin, if a patient comes to you with a lesion in the lip, for example, or the tongue, you must examine the entire similarly lined, okay, epithelium of the head and the neck to rule out there is no synchronous lesion affecting the patient. Kasi pwedeng meron sa tongue, meron sa larynx, meron sa upper esophagus, meron sa nasopharynx. Kasi lahat ng areas na yan, squamous lined. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng field cancerization effect. Whatever mutation transformed the normal squamous epithelium, okay, to undergo this transition, okay, happens to all similarly lined squamous epithelium in the head and the neck. Hence the need for a complete examination, okay, of the entire aero. Kasi, for example, yung bronchus, okay, o kaya yung trachea, o kaya yung nasal cavity, no? Air ang nadaan dun, hindi naman pagkain at saka fluid, no? Hindi naman tubig or juice. Okay? Similar din ang lining dun no? So kailangan mo rin siyang i-evaluate. Okay? So diagnostic, so endoscopy, intraoperative pan-endoscopy. Pag sinabing pan-endoscopy, 4 yun, ano? Quad scoping ang tawag, no? 4 kasi, no? Nasal endoscopy, bronchoscopy, esophagoscopy, and direct laryngoscopy. Again, bakit? Kasi pare-parehas ng lining epithelium yan, no? Gusto mong ma-check yung 5 to 7% risk, no, ng synchronous tumor. Necessary to rule out synchronous lesions which can be present, no, in that percentage. Panorex help determine whether the mandible involvement is present, or CT scan with contrast, okay, information on extent of local soft tissue and bony involvement of upper aerodigestive tract tumors, and the presence of regionally metastatic disease like to the upper cervical jugulo-digastric chain. So, ang advantage ng CT scan over Panorex is that, no, it will give you information not only on the primary site, it will give you the state of the loco-regional structures. Okay? Yung bangtang lesion mo, meron ng neck node involvement, for example. Yan ba, nag-invade na ng myelohyoid o kaya ng pterygoids? Hindi mo makikita sa Panorex yun, no? Kasi ang Panorex parang x-ray lang yan eh. Okay? So, kung ameloblastoma, okay, knowing it's benign, pwede na yung Panorex. Kasi you don't expect it to be that destructive, no? Unlike in a squamous cell carcinoma. MRI is best utilized for evaluating soft tissues. Okay, for example, salivary gland. Ito ang best, okay? And then yung metastatic workup na tinatawag, no? Chest X-ray to screen for lung and mediastinal metastasis. Yung ultrasound, saan ba ang best na use nito, no? To assess presence of neck metastasis like in the nodes, or can also be used to guide the needle in a fine needle aspiration biopsy. And then the biopsy will differ, no? Depending ano ba yung binabiopsy mong site. Sabi ko kanina, kung oral cavity yan, di via punch biopsy. Huwag mo namang i-punch biopsy yung larynx o kaya yung esophagus kasi baka ma-perforate. Okay? So, nasal, pharyngeal, and laryngeal tumors are biopsied by use of endoscopes. While neck nodes, no, yung mga kulani sa leeg, can be biopsied using fine needle techniques. Bakit ganun? No? Bakit sa oral cavity hindi pwedeng fine needle? Pero sa lymph node pwede. Or the other way around. Bakit hindi pwedeng i-punch biopsy yung node? Dapat alam natin yung mga reasons dyan. Ano? Kasi pag ginawa ng question and answer yan, malilito ka kung hindi mo alam yung basis eh. Okay, ganito yon. Kasi yung oral cavity na nagha-harbor possibly, no, ng squamous cell carcinoma, you need tissue, not cells. Ba't kailangan mo ng tissue? Para ma-differentiate mo kung in situ ba yan or carcinoma. Hindi kasi kayang i-reveal yun, no, ng fine needle. Sa fine needle aspiration biopsy, minsan ang tawag natin dyan, cytologic exam. Cells lang kasi na-aspirate nito, no? Walang tissue. Hindi ka na ito bibigyan ng basement membrane eh. So, hindi mo malalaman kung in situ ba or invasive yung carcinoma na nakuha niya. Sasabihin lang niya, positive for malignant cells. Pero hindi niya kayang ipakita kung may violation ba o wala ng basement membrane. Bakit sa lymph node, doc, pwede yun? Kasi sa lymph node, gusto mo lang malaman, involved ba siya or hindi? So, gusto mo lang malaman, involved na ba yung draining lymphatics or not? Okay? Kasi pag yan involved, ibig sabihin nun, invasive yung cancer mo. No? Hindi naman pupunta sa lymph node yan pag intact yung basement membrane. Okay? So, remember those, no, principles behind. Para kung bigyan ka ng lesion, tinanong ka anong form ng biopsy yung pipiliin mo, masasagot mo na. Okay, so ganyan ang punch biopsy, no? Hindi lang cell. Bibigyan ka niya ng buong tissue. Ayun, dinidisplay pa yung basement membrane. So kung malignant yung lesion mo na nanggagaling ng epithelium, okay, tapos merong breach ng basement membrane, alam mo na malignant yan. Okay, hindi siya ordinary in situ lesion lang that is remaining superficial. Okay? So, ito naman yung fine needle aspiration. No? Okay lang kung palpable yung node. Pero kung hindi, it is better combined with ultrasound guidance. Since nabanggit na natin yung nodes, okay, and head and neck malignancy ito, no, pag-aralan natin, no, saglit, ano ba yung mga cervical lymph nodes? Ang cervical lymph nodes, okay, previously nahahati sa 6. Sa bagong classification, 7. Okay? Strictly speaking, 6 lang talaga ang cervical lymph node levels. Okay? Yung level 1, as we see in the picture, is composed of the submental submandibular group of nodes. Okay? Yung level 2, 3 and 4, ito yung jugular chain. No? So, meron kang 2, superior, 3, yung gitna, middle, and then yung 4, inferior, jugular group of nodes. Sa posterior triangle, ibig sabihin sa likod ng sternocleidomastoid muscle, pero sa harap ng trapezius, may triangle dun eh, di ba? The suboccipital triangle. Yung lymph nodes doon, ang tawag suboccipital nodes or level 5. And then yung in between the anterior borders of the right and left sternocleidomastoid muscle, ibig sabihin yung harap, ang tawag ay central group of lymph nodes. Yung sinasabi kong level 7 nasa likod ng manubrium. Okay? So, strictly speaking, hindi na neck yan. No? Kasi ang neck natatapos sa thoracic inlet dito sa taas ng manubrium. Okay? So, yung level 7 ay retromanubrial. No? Nasa likod ng manubrium. Dito, okay, mas defined. No? Yung level 1, hinati into 1A, 1B. Yung 1A, nandoon sa sublingual triangle. So, dapat alam natin yan. Ano? Pag nag-review kayo ng anatomy, ano ba boundaries nun? Di yung dalawang anterior belly ng digastric at saka si hyoid. Sa likod ng anterior belly, pero sa harap ng posterior belly at sa baba ng angle ng mandible, may triangle doon. No? The digastric triangle or the submandibular triangle. Okay? So, that's where level 1B belong. So, pag pinagsama mo yung 1, si sublingual at saka si submandibular yon. Okay? Group of nodes. Si 2, nahati din sa dalawa. No? Alam natin si 2 ay si upper jugular. No? Dito sa simplified version. No? Si upper jugular yung 2. Hinati siya into 2A at saka 2B. Nino? Ng spinal accessory nerve. Okay? So, yung 11th cranial nerve, ibig sabihin galing sa loob ng skull yan, di ba? 11th cranial nerve, dalawa origins niyan eh, di ba? Yung spinal accessory nerve. From C1, ibig sabihin yung first spinal nerve, aakyat yon no, ng foramen magnum to meet, okay, yung merong brain origin, yung galing sa medulla. Mag-unite to form the 11th cranial nerve, no, yung spinal accessory nerve. Lalabas ng jugular foramen, no, together with the internal jugular vein, no, kasi doon magsisimula ang internal jugular vein as a continuation of the sigmoid sinus. Si sigmoid sinus papasok sa jugular foramen, sa baba ng foramen, iba na pangalan niya, no, internal jugular vein. Ibig sabihin, si spinal accessory nerve or 11th cranial nerve at saka si internal jugular vein, magkasama sila doon, no, sa umpisa pababa. Si spinal accessory nerve, i-divide niya, no, yung upper jugular group of nodes into A anterior and B behind the nerve. Okay? Para saan? Bababa to supply the sternocleidomastoid muscle and the trapezius. Yun ang yun ang purpose ni spinal accessory nerve. It is the motor nerve supply to the SCM and the trapezius. Si level 3, same, mid-jugular. Level 4, same, inferior jugular. Sa suboccipital group, nahati ulit sila into 5A and 5B. Okay? A, above. B, below the cricoid. Okay? So, it's the cricoid that divides 5 into A and B. It's the spinal accessory nerve that divides 2 into A and B. Dok, ba't ba natin dinidiscuss yan, no, in detail? Okay, so diniscuss natin yun para maintindihan nyo ito. No? Yung term na neck dissection pertains on the surgical procedure that we do, okay, to treat, okay, therapeutically or prophylactically the cervical nodes. Okay, so i-define natin muna yung terms. Okay, ang originator ng lahat ng procedure, ang tawag ay radical neck dissection or de Crile procedure. In this procedure, we remove levels 1 to 5 of the cervical lymphatics together with these three important non-lymphatic structure: the spinal accessory nerve, the internal jugular vein, and the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay? So, sa laki ng inalis, ang tawag natin ay radical. Okay? Later on, we found out that the nodes can be removed without affecting the non-lymphatic structures. Kasi pag sinama mo itong tatlo, it results to disfigurement and morbidity. Okay? Inalis mo yung spinal accessory nerve, so wala nang function yung SCM at saka trapezius. Tinanggal mo internal jugular vein, so mas prone to facial edema at saka increased intracranial pressure yung mga pasyente. Okay? So, minodify siya. Okay? So, ang tawag natin ay MRND or Modified Radical Neck Dissection, sometimes called Functional Neck Dissection. Because in this modification, we retained the non-lymphatic structures. But we still remove levels 1 to 5 cervical lymphatics. So, ano difference ng radical versus modified radical? The preservation of the non-lymphatic structures, okay, in an MRND. Ano similarity nila? They both remove levels 1 to 5 cervical lymph nodes. Okay? Question, kailan ginagawa yan? Kailan dapat alisin ang levels 1 to 5 group of lymphatics? Inaalis yan in a patient with a proven cervical lymph node involvement. Paano na po-prove yun? Kung palpable yung node, FNA. Kung hindi palpable, via ultrasound or CT-guided biopsy. Okay, nakita mo sa CT scan, oops, meron siyang level 2 lymph node. Okay, biopsyhin natin yan. O, pagka malignant yon, ano gagawin mo? O, hindi lang yung level 2 aalisin mo. Aalisin mo yung levels 1 to 5. So, this is a comprehensive or complete neck dissection. Pag sinabing comprehensive or complete, levels 1 to 5 yon minimum. And block, no? Hindi piecemeal. Lahat ng fibro tissue sa area na yan ng neck, okay, aalisin mo in one specimen. Okay. Puntahan natin yung last, selective neck dissection. In selective neck dissection, we preserve lymphatics that are normally removed in an RND or an MRND. Ibig sabihin, hindi na levels 1 to 5 yung aalisin natin. Meron siyang tatlong examples here. In a supraomohyoid selective neck dissection, we remove only cervical lymph node levels 1, 2, and 3. Okay? While for lateral neck dissection, we remove levels only 2, 3, and 4. And then in a combination like posterolateral, no, lateral is 2, 3, 4, you include the posterior or the posterior triangle or suboccipital, that's level 5, you have 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So, kailan sila ginagawa? Ang selective neck dissection, ginagawa with an intention to prophylactically treat the nodes. Pag sinabi mong prophylactic, hindi pa sila involved ng squamous cell carcinoma, aalisin mo na sila bago sila ma-involve. Yung therapeutic neck dissection like we did, no, in a RND and an MRND, tinanggal mo yung node na involved na. Kahit nga isa lang, no, sa level 1 to 5, yung buong 1 to 5 station levels aalisin mo. Kasi therapeutic ang intent mo, no, ang intention mo. Dito sa kabila, no, sa selective neck dissection, hindi pa umaabot, no, yung malignancy or carcinoma sa any lymph node levels. Pero ba't mo aalisin? Kasi nga prophylactic yung intent. Ibig sabihin, bago magpunta doon yung carcinoma, alisin mo na. So kung uninvolved pa yung neck nodes or yung status ng nodes ay clinically negative, no, walang palpable, wala ka ring makita sa CT scan, it doesn't mean wala kang neck dissection na gagawin. Meron pa din. Okay? Depende sa primary site of origin. Kung ang primary site of origin ay oral cavity, o dinefine na natin kanina yung extent nito, ibig sabihin kasama dyan ang lip, kasama dyan ang anterior 2/3 ng tongue. Okay? Aside doon, isasama mo yung 1, 2, and 3 cervical lymph nodes. Kasi pag wala kang ginawa dyan, ibig ko sabihin, ang inalis lang natin yung lip, nag-wide excision lang tayo. O kaya inalis lang natin yung tongue, nag-glossectomy lang tayo. After some time, no, most often in the first 2 years, babalik yung pasyenteng yan. Meron ng lymph adenopathy ng levels na ito. Okay? So instead na 1, 2, 3 lang ang inalis mo, since positive na yung neck status niya, magwa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ka na. Okay? So yun ang ibig sabihin ng prophylactic neck dissection. So ganun din sa lateral neck dissection, no? Umiba ka lang ng primary site. Dito, ang primary site, larynx. Dito sa posterolateral, ang primary site, thyroid. Ba't ganun? Kasi now we know na yung mga certain sites or subsites ng head and neck, meron silang mga preferential sites of drainage. Okay? So kung babalikan natin tong picture na to, kung oral cavity, dito sila usually pupunta una. Ibig sabihin, ito yung unang receptacle or echelon of nodes na nagfi-filter ng lymphatic fluid galing ng oral cavity. Levels 1, 2, and 3. Yung 1, 2, and 3, lahat nasa taas ng muscle na ito. No? Itong muscle na to na tinatawag nating omohyoid muscle. Galing ng scapula sa likod, pupunta ng hyoid, tinawag na omohyoid. So lahat ng levels na 1, 2, and 3 nasa taas ng muscle na yan, kaya ang tawag ay supraomohyoid neck dissection. Kailan ginagawa yun prophylactically? Pag ang primary site nasa oral cavity. Okay? So tandaan nyo na yan, no? Kasi lahat ng tinanong sa head and neck, ito kasi ang most commonly affected, no? Yung oral cavity area, like the lip or the tongue. Okay? So magde-decide ka na lang, ano pa idadagdag mo aside sa lip or tongue? Selective, modified radical, or radical? Okay, padaliin natin lalo. Hindi na tayo gumagamit ng radical neck dissection ngayon. Okay? Kasi nga, highly morbid yung procedure. Unless, may isang naiiwang indication dyan. Carcinoma of unknown primary. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo alam saan ang primary site. Okay? So, pagka ganoon, okay, that's the only time we employ a radical neck dissection. But if you know the primary site, and the neck status is positive. Okay? Matik na yon. Ano yung extent ng neck dissection pag N plus or N positive? Modified radical neck dissection. If the status of the neck during your PE or clinical examination is negative, N minus, ano yung extent ng neck dissection? Selective neck dissection depending where the primary is. Okay? So regardless whether, okay, of the neck status being positive or negative, some or the whole group of nodes must be removed, either therapeutically or prophylactically depending on your intention. Okay? So this is how the entire field will appear to you, okay, in reality. No? Makikita mo yung mga different triangles, okay? Wala na dyan yung SCM, no? na transect na, no? So hindi mo na makikita yung boundary ng anterior and posterior triangle dyan, pero nandyan pa ang trapezius, nandyan ang internal jugular vein, as you can see, nandyan ang spinal accessory nerve, okay? Nandyan dyan ang internal carotid, nandyan ang vagus, okay? Nandoon ang hypoglossal nerve, pinapakita sa loob ng submandibular triangle. Okay? Wala ka nang makikitang nodes. Bakit? Kasi inalis na. Okay? Naalis na yung mga nodes dyan, no? Yung levels 1 to 5. So, ibig sabihin ito ay MRND. Bakit MRND? Kasi naiwan si spinal accessory tsaka si internal jugular. Oh. Okay? So, pag pin-reserve mo yung mga non-lymphatic structures na yan, modified radical neck dissection yan. Okay? Another depiction of the area. Ito. Looking at this picture and inside the black dashed lines are levels 1 to 5. Okay? Aside from that, look, the spinal accessory nerve has been transected, the internal jugular vein, and the SCM is already missing. So in this picture, you are being shown, okay, the completed radical neck dissection. So in a radical neck dissection, levels 1 to 5 of nodes has been excised together with the 3 non-lymphatic structures, SCM, spinal accessory nerve, internal jugular vein. Okay? So dapat alam natin yon. Pero ito yung mas importante. Dapat alam natin kung ano yung dapat maiwan. Okay? Kasi yung aalisin mo, yung pathologist na lang makikinabang doon. Pero yung maiiwan at ipe-preserve mo sa pasyente, of course yung pasyente. Anong ibig ko sabihin? The internal carotid, the common carotid, the external carotid must remain. Okay? This nerve, the vagus nerve, this nerve, the phrenic nerve, this roots of the brachial plexus must remain. Okay? What else? The posterior vertebral muscles like splenius capitis, levator scapula, and posterior, middle, and anterior scalene. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yung mga yan, dapat pine-preserve mo yan. Kasi pag inalis mo yan, supraradical neck dissection na yon, no? At di natin ginagawa yon. Okay? In this picture, another patient with the same extent of nodes removed, but this time you see the SCM intact. And so therefore, yung spinal accessory nerve at saka yung internal jugular vein, syempre natatakpan ng SCM. So this is the case of a modified radical neck dissection. Ito naman yung selective, no? The picture on the left shows the levels 1, 2, and 3 group of lymphatics above this muscle, the omohyoid. This is a supraomohyoid neck dissection. The picture on the right shows you levels 2, 3, and 4 being removed. This is an example of a lateral neck dissection. Okay? The classic complete neck dissection for palpable adenopathy in the posterior triangle of the neck includes removal of which of the following? Transverse process, C2 to C4, no. Spinal accessory nerve, both thyroid lobes, the trapezius, the vagus. Pag sinabing classic complete, that is a radical or a modified radical neck dissection, and that would include, okay, the spinal accessory nerve. No? Classic complete, that is your CRYL or your radical neck dissection. A 70-year-old male complains of progressive weight loss and hoarseness. Ear, nose, and throat evaluation reveals right vocal cord paralysis and several right neck masses, which fine needle aspiration reveals to be squamous cell carcinoma. The patient undergoes right hemilaryngectomy, right radical neck dissection. Post-operatively, right hemidiaphragm paralysis is noted. Okay, so nagkaroon siya ng diaphragm paralysis. That is due to injury of which of the following? The phrenic nerve. Hence the need, okay, to preserve, identify and preserve the phrenic nerve even in a radical neck dissection. No? Hindi kasali yan. Si vagus, hindi rin kasali yan. Brachial plexus, cervical plexus, hindi kasali yan. But spinal accessory nerve, we remove that in a CRYL or radical, but we preserve in a modified radical neck dissection. Okay, so let us now apply what we've learned from the previous slides. So, yung first carcinoma site is the lip. Majority occurs in the lower lip, okay? But take note, basal cell carcinoma presents more commonly on the upper lip. Presentation. It usually presents as an ulcerating lesion. If there is paresthesia, that indicates already mental nerve involvement. For early lesion, you will see that surgery is equivalent to RT in terms of overall survival. Okay? Kung early lesion, ito yung mga T1, T2. Neck dissection is necessary if N positive or N plus, yung clinical neck status. Okay? And then the need for adjuvant radiation is necessary for those with positive or closed margins, those with perineural invasion, or those with node positivity. Okay? So, or any condition that increases the risk of local recurrence. Take note, local recurrence, that is an indication for adjuvant radiotherapy. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, si radiation, pwede siyang gamitin in an adjuvant fashion, pwede rin siyang piliin na primary modality of treatment, provided early yung lesion. Okay? But between the two, of course, may konting bias, pero by evidence kasi, mas better tinitreat ang malignancy with surgery kasi meron kang known yung negative margins, no? Sa radiation kasi hindi mo malalaman whether yung margins mo ba negative or positive kasi wala kang specimen for histopathologic exam. Okay? Only surgery can provide that. Okay? So, pag sinabing wide excision, ito yon, no? Ito yung ulcerating lesion, no, in this picture. So, the lesion together with a rim of normal tissue must be removed. So, sabi natin kanina, if the resulting defect, okay, is more than 1/3, okay, to 1/4, no, nung transverse distance ng lip, hindi mo yan pwede i-close primarily with sutures alone, no? Bakit? Kasi tatabingi yung labi, no, yung bibig. So dapat tatakpan mo yan ng flap reconstruction, no. In this case, in the Abbey Eslander flap, the donor flap was coming from the upper lip corner. Okay, ang tawag dito ay lip switch or lip transposition flap, no. Yung donor lip galing sa taas, ibababa, no, via rotation to cover this defect created by the wide excision. Okay? So ganito na magiging final result noon, no. So this is an Abbey Eslander flap, a flap reconstruction if the gap in the lower lip amounts to more than 1/3 to 1/4 of the transverse distance. In this patient, you will see, no, almost the entire lower lip is affected with a ulcerating lesion. So ang una mong gagawin dyan, i-confirm mo muna via histology. Ano kaya to? Malignant? So kung ang biopsy niyan ay squamous cell carcinoma, like in this case, okay, take note that it extends to the other side of the lip. Ibig sabihin, it has crossed the midline. Importante yung statement na yon. Bakit? Kasi may bearing yon pagdating sa status ng neck later on. Sa evaluation mo, no, ng CT scan, nakita mo that the outer cortex of the mandible is already being invaded. Pero nung in-examine mo yung neck, wala kang makapang palpable lymph nodes. Ibig sabihin, clinically negative neck on both sides. Walang distant metastasis. Okay, so tatanungin ka ngayon ng examiner, how are you going to treat this patient? Okay, so isa-isa yan, no? Yung T, the primary site is the lower lip. Hindi nagbabago ang treatment dyan, laging wide excision. Okay? So aalisin mo lang yan together with the rim of normal tissue. And knowing na malaki yung gap, dapat merong flap reconstruction yan. Okay? What about this finding? Outer cortical mandibular invasion. Hindi mo pwedeng iwanan yan, no? Kasi bakit? Magre-recur yan. Kasi involved na siya eh. So para maalis yan, outer cortex lang yung involved, pwedeng marginal mandibulectomy. Okay? Parang yung discussion natin sa ameloblastoma. Kung cortex to cortex yung involvement, dapat segmental mandibulectomy. Okay? So dalawa na. Magwa-wide excision ka ng lower lip, marginal mandibulectomy ka pa. Okay? Kasi ang objective mo dito is complete oncologic clearance, no? Dapat maalis mo lahat ng tumor. What about the neck? May gagawin ba tayo sa neck? Negative nga siya, no? Clinically negative bilateral. Meron pa din, no? Kahit negative. Anong neck dissection? Selective. At dahil lip ito, supraomohyoid neck dissection na bilateral. Ibig sabihin both sides, right and left. Bakit kailangan right and left? Kasi yung lesion nag-cross na ng midline. Ibig sabihin both sides of the neck now is at risk for potential cervical nodal involvement. Okay? So yun yung complete treatment ng patient na ito, no? Wide excision ng lower lip, marginal mandibulectomy, at saka bilateral supraomohyoid neck dissection. And then yung gap, tatakpan natin ng flap. Okay? So yan, bilateral supraomohyoid neck dissection, wide excision with marginal resection of the mandible. Anong gagawin dun sa defect sa lower lip? This time, dito manggagaling yung flap coverage, no? Nasolabial transposition flap. So this area of the nasolabial area will be transposed to cover the defect. Yan. Okay? So, kompleto yung treatment mo. Now, kung ang histopath niyan, no, yung final histopathology niyan, sinabi, may positive neck nodes. O kaya, may perineural invasion. Meron pa bang additional treatment? Meron pa. Ano yun? Adjuvant radiation. Okay? Next example. This time, ang primary site upper lip. So kung tanungin ka, ano kaya ang most likely histology nito? So ang sagot doon, basal cell carcinoma. Okay, ano treatment sa basal cell? Iba ba sa squamous cell carcinoma? Yes, merong konting pagkakaiba. Sa primary site, pareha silang wide excision ang treatment. Paano sa nodes? Ang basal cell carcinoma, Okay? Very seldom metastasize to the draining nodes. Okay? Yun ang kanyang clinical behavior. Knowing that, do we need to add a neck dissection component, okay, in the treatment if the histology is basal cell? Hindi na. Pero kung squamous cell carcinoma yan, of course, you need to treat the neck, okay, depending on its status. If N+, modified radical neck dissection. If N-, edi selective, okay, in the form of supraomohyoid neck dissection again. Bakit? Kasi lip yung origin, a part of the oral cavity. So let's see, ano ba ang biopsy nito? Oy, upper lip basal cell carcinoma siya, no? Wala siyang bone invasion sa iyong evaluation imaging. Yung neck status, negative bilateral. Tatanungin ka, what is your treatment? Okay? So ang treatment mo diyan wide excision, okay? Lang nung basal cell carcinoma. Walang neck dissection diyan. Okay? Kasi basal cell 'yan eh. Yung defect, tatakpan mo ulit ng flap. Now this time, saan manggagaling yung flap coverage? Dito sa forehead, no? So yung forehead skin ililipat pababa, no, doon sa upper lip. Ang tawag natin diyan ngayon, visor flap. Okay? Kasi nilipat mo, no, from here to here sa defect. And then yung defect dito sa may calvarium, sa may frontal bone, tatakpan ng skin graft. Okay? So the donor site is covered with a skin graft. After a forehead flap covered the defect, no, after transposing it. Okay? So ganyan mangyayari diyan, ano, bipedical forehead flap, and then yung pinaka yung arm, no, kung saan nanggaling yung blood supply, eventually ikakat na lang 'yan. Okay? Nakita mo, no, nagkaroon tuloy ng buhok sa area na ito, no, kasi yung skin ng forehead nilipat diyan eh. Okay, no? So medyo ano, no, highly morbid and disfiguring ang mga head and neck surgeries. Remember that principle, no? Kahit lumipat tayo ng primary site, okay, that treatment principle stays the same. Okay? So ngayon nasa tongue tayo. It presents with ulcerations or exophytic masses, most common on the lateral and ventral surface. For T1 and T2 lesions, meaning early, a partial glossectomy plus a selective in the form of supraomohyoid neck dissection is warranted if N0, ibig sabihin negative, no? Or an MRND if N+. With mandibular involvement, okay, you need to remove the mandible, okay, via a mandibulectomy. Okay, so again, ang endpoint ng cancer surgery is to leave no tumor behind. Kaya ka nga nag-i-investigate, no? Kaya ka nagsi-CT scan. Yun bang tongue carcinoma, may involvement ng mandible or wala? Kasi kung meron, sasama mo yung mandible. Yun bang squamous cell carcinoma ng tongue, umabot ng floor ng mouth hanggang mylohyoid ba? Kasi kung hanggang doon, magko-commando neck dissection ka na. Kasama na yung floor ng mouth. Pero kung hindi, di wag mong isama. Doon ka lang sa tongue ulit, no? Glossectomy ka lang. Okay? So ito yung classic example niyan. This patient came in with an ulcerating lesion in the floor of the mouth. No? So mukhang ordinary singaw lang siya. Pero kung ito ay elderly, of low socioeconomic status, known to be a cigarette smoker for many years, alcohol abuser and the like, okay, mga risk factors kumpleto sa kanya. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo na ma-rule out kung ulcer lang ba to, benign or malignant. So, may gagawin ka dyan. Biopsy. Paano mo iba-biopsy ito? Punch biopsy under local anesthesia. And then, iintayin natin ang histopath. Paglabas ng histopath, squamous cell carcinoma siya ng floor of the mouth. So, ang next, in the thinking process, o doon sa management algorithm mo ay to know the extent. Okay? Nandiyan lang kaya yan? O meron ng involvement ng ibang structures o kaya ng neck nodes? So, anong i-request mo doon? CT scan. Okay? Sabi ng CT scan mo, there is gross mandibular invasion. Ibig sabihin, cortex to cortex. So, hindi ka pa nag-o-opera, alam mo na at the time of the operation, you need to perform a segmental mandibulectomy. Okay? O nasa kaliwa yung SCC, no, yung squamous cell carcinoma. Yung status ng left side ng neck positive, pero yung right negative. Okay, ang tanong, anong gagawin natin sa neck? Hindi naman siya nag-cross ng midline, di ba? Nandito lang siya, ipsilateral sa left. So, ibig sabihin, yung risk na ma-involve yung right side ng neck, maliit, negative. Okay? Pero sa left, nag-positive na siya. O, isummarize natin. Anong treatment natin ngayon dito? Wide excision ng floor ng mouth. Yun kasi yung primary site. Ano pa? Segmental mandibulectomy. Ano pa? MRND left. May gagawin ba tayo sa right? Wala. Bakit? Wala naman tumor dun eh. Okay? Wala dun yung primary tumor. Nasa left lang, no? Limited lang siya. Pero kung sinabi niyang yung lesion na ito, nag-cross ng midline. Okay? Kahit negative yung right side ng neck, may gagawin ba tayo sa right side ng neck? Meron. Ano? Supraomohyoid neck dissection right. Okay? So, dapat very clear yon. Ano? So, kung wala namang primary tumor sa right at negative yung right side ng neck, leave that alone. Wala namang involvement doon. Kaya sabi ko nga kanina, critical yung statement ng tumor crossing the midline. No? When a tumor crosses the midline, it is telling you already to examine both sides of the neck. Kasi may gagawin ka na doon, no? Minimum of selective. Pag positive, halimbawa, both sides of the neck, positive, bilateral modified radical neck dissection yun. Okay, so that's the complete treatment for this patient. So kung itanong nung examiner sa dulo nung case, okay, what will you offer or how will you treat this patient? Yan ang hahanapin mo. 'Di ba? Wide excision floor of the mouth. Wala na yung floor ng mouth. Nag-segmental mandibulectomy ka na at nag-MRND ka sa left. Okay? Nag-modified radical neck dissection ka sa left. O sabi rin natin kanina sa ameloblastoma lecture, hindi mo pwedeng iwanang may gap yung mandible. 'Di ba? Kasi it will result to an undegumped deformity wherein ang oral cavity nagko-communicate sa atmosphere, no? Tutulo ang laway diyan, no? Magkakaroon ng salivary fistula. So kailangan mo itong takpan, okay, ng coverage. Okay, either bone graft, no? Yung galing din sa kanya. Saan ba galing usually? Usually sa fibula kasi pwede naman tayong mag-ambulate ng walang fibula eh. Okay? O yung iba, pinipili rib, no? Yung floating ribs, yung 11th rib at saka 12th rib, pwedeng gamitin 'yon, no? Pang bridge ng gap. Yung iba, radius, no? Yung radial forearm bone, ginagamit din 'yon, no? Kasi kamatch niya yung no? Yung diameter ng mandibular arch na nawala. Okay? So usually ang pinipili fibula. Okay? Fibula. Now, kung ayaw ng pasyente or for some reason hindi healthy yung fibula niya, yung rib niya o yung radius niya, gagamit ka na ng metallic implant dyan. Okay? Yun yung mga, kung nakakita kayo ng titanium plates, nilalagay dyan. Okay? Kaya lang, hindi pwedeng yun lang. Kailangan merong muscle at saka fascial coverage yan. Otherwise, hindi siya water sealed. Tutulo pa din yung laway. Okay? So, ang ginagawa, yung deltopectoral flap. Okay? So, pag sinabing composite resection, hindi lang isa inalis mo. Okay? Hindi lang yung floor ng mouth. Sinama mo yung segment ng mandible. Okay? And in this case, an MRND of the left side of the neck. Okay? So, ito na yung deltopectoral flap, no? Galing sa deltoid and the pectoralis region. Kumuha ka ng tang ng muscle doon. Okay? To provide bulk at saka water seal, okay, sa oral cavity. Yung mandibular arch, ni-replace mo ng metal bars or ng plates. Okay? Okay? For cancer of the base of the tongue, the peculiar thing about the base of the tongue is that it is always located in the midline. And so therefore, it has a strong propensity for lymph node metastasis that may happen bilaterally. Okay? And they tend to be advanced at the time of diagnosis. For early lesion, surgery is equivalent again to RT plus a routine bilateral neck dissection again because this region is at the midline, meaning both sides of the neck are at risk. For advanced lesion aside from the tongue, okay, the larynx is resected, okay, because the patient's ability to swallow is already affected with total glossectomy. So in order to help the patient avoid aspiration, okay, the larynx is taken together with the tongue. A 62-year-old alcoholic presents with an indurated ulcer 1.5 cm in length in the left lateral aspect of her tongue, not fixed to the alveolar ridge. There are no clinically abnormal lymph nodes palpable in the neck, and a biopsy of the tongue reveals SCC. What should she undergo? Okay, so this lesion in the tongue needs wide excision. Okay, what about the neck nodes? No clinically abnormal lymph nodes. So even if it's not involved, we said, no, it should be treated by a selective neck dissection. Since the tongue is part of the oral cavity, it should be in the form of supraomohyoid neck dissection. So let us try to look at that option. Chemo, no. Wide excision of the ulcer. Okay, it's that enough. Wide excision left radical neck dissection, that's an overkill. Antibiotic therapy, that's an undertreatment. So we do not have here wide excision and selective neck dissection, but instead we were given wide excision plus radiotherapy. That can supplant, okay, wide excision and selective node dissection in a form of supraomohyoid dissection, because RT can be considered primary treatment also for the lymph node spread. Okay, so E is the best answer. We don't perform radical neck dissection. Okay, the only remaining indication for this is a patient with a cancer of unknown primary in the head and the neck. No, yung radical neck dissection. No, the entire levels 1 to 5 plus the 3 non-lymphatic structures. Okay, so for cancer of the alveolus and gingiva, similar to that of the tongue, no, same principle will apply. Okay, aside from resection of the tumor, depending on the involvement of the mandible, no, if the inferior alveolar nerve is spared, marginal resection. If it is involved, do segmental resection. Okay, ipsilateral, selective in the form of supraomohyoid if it's N0 or N-, meaning it's uninvolved, but it still needs to be resected prophylactically. But if it is positive clinically, it needs to be resected therapeutically in the form of MRND. Okay, so this is a picture showing the increasing T stage, the mandibular canal where the inferior alveolar nerve traverses, okay, such that in early stages, this is a form of marginal mandibulectomy, meaning the mandibular arch is spared, no need to reconstruct, okay, while for segmental resection, it needs a reconstruction because there is a gap, okay, resulting in the mandible. So this is an alveolar ridge, no, malignancy, okay, extending to the mandible as we can see in the Dentas scan, and so therefore wide excision of that lesion together with segmental resection of the mandible plus an MRND of that side of the neck. Okay, and then reconstruction to prevent the anti-gump deformity. For cancer of the hypopharynx, okay, it presents as an advanced stage similar to base of the tongue. No? In fact, they are almost continuous with each other. Okay, dysphagia begins with solid foods, progressing to liquids. Then majority will have lymph node metastasis at the time of diagnosis. So because of the region, no, where it emanates, okay, for early lesion, we prefer this time RT alone. No? As much as possible, you do not want to operate on this area. Why? Because after the hypopharynx, it's the esophagus. So if one removes the hypopharynx surgically, okay, that would entail also an esophagectomy. Okay, and so to bridge that gap, no, imagine, no, for a while, a patient without a hypopharynx and an esophagus. So to connect the GI tract, okay, the stomach must be pulled up, okay, into the neck, no, for an anastomosis to be created. No? That's why we have a procedure called gastric pull-up. Okay, so as much as possible, you want to avoid that. No, that is common in hypopharyngeal malignancy. That's why you don't see surgery for T1, T2, and T3. Okay, it's either RT or combination chemo RT. surgery is the treatment of last resort, no, for those, okay, that has a very advanced disease that does not respond to RT and chemo-RT. Okay, for cancer of the larynx, this patient presents with hoarseness, airway compromise, and dysphagia. No? They can be divided into two groups. No? Supraglottic glottic, meaning above the vocal cords or at the vocal cords, and subglottic or below the vocal cords. Okay, so for supraglottic glottic, early lesion can be treated with RT, meaning a laryngeal preserving procedure. Okay, now but for advanced, you have to sacrifice the larynx via a laryngectomy plus an RT adjuvant. For subglottic, a total laryngectomy plus neck dissection regardless of nodal status, no, because of poorer prognosis. So between these two groups, a subglottic primary has a poorer outcome as compared to subglottic glottic primary malignancies. Okay, so this is an example of a laryngeal preserving procedure. Only one side of the larynx is resected, no? So in this picture, we are actually seeing a vertical laryngectomy. Okay, this is only possible provided the anterior and the posterior commissure is left uninvolved. If this lesion on one side crosses the midline either anteriorly or posteriorly, it would entail a total laryngectomy. Okay, just like in this picture, no, in the CT scan, you will see this side of the vocal cord has a mass that extends to the posterior region and then to the right side. Okay, so you know, preoperatively, this patient has to sacrifice the entire larynx. So that is the mass right there, okay, seen in the CT scan a while ago. Okay, so for unknown primary tumors, okay, so for patients with cervical nodal metastasis without clinical or radiologic evidence of primary tumor, okay, a pan-endoscopy must follow. No? The term pan-endoscopy connotes examining, okay, the bronchus, the esophagus, and the nasopharynx. Okay, so a quadscoping is done. No? 4 sites, no? Bronchus, the esophagus, the nasopharynx, and a direct laryngoscopy. Okay, because you are trying to find where the hiding primary is. Okay, and then blind biopsies of these 4, the base of the tongue, the tonsillar fossa, the piriform sinus, and the nasopharynx, because most of the time, the hiding primary or the unknown primary is somewhere here. So these are the 4 notorious sites. No? So they do ask this in the exam. Treatment. Okay, so if after doing blind biopsies, it turns out unknown primary still, okay, that is the group of patients that are treated with radical neck dissection with empiric radiation spanning the whole neck, no, from nasopharynx to the hypopharynx. Meaning, we are assuming, no, that the unknown primary is located still in the head and the neck region. Okay, we're not thinking of a more distant site. Okay, so we are assuming the hiding primary still belongs to the neck. Okay, why is that? Because of this rule. Okay, so the rule of 80 says 80% of neoplastic lesions, okay, are malignant. Okay, and from these malignant lesions, 80% are metastatic to the nodes, and their primary lies above the clavicle, meaning located in the head and the neck. Okay, so for lesions like that, do not answer breast, lung, ovary as the primary source. No, you should answer any of these 4 because they are the most common sites of the hiding primary in a unknown primary tumor. Okay, so let's go to parapharyngeal space tumors. Okay, so the parapharyngeal space is a potential space like an inverted pyramid extending from the skull base to the hyoid. It is separated by the styloid process and the fascia that covers it into an outer lateral pre-styloid and an inner medial post-styloid compartment. Okay, so in the transverse cut, this is how it looks like. Okay, that brown color represents the fascia that spans, okay, the styloid process behind going to the femur in front. It divides the parapharyngeal space into an outer, lateral, okay, pre-styloid compartment, and an inner medial post-styloid compartment. Okay, this is necessary because there are different histologies, okay, or conditions that will belong to each subcompartments. Okay, so you will notice that the pre-styloid compartment is occupied by mostly the parotid. Okay, while the post-styloid region is occupied by neurovascular structures like arteries, veins, and nerves. Okay, so for pre-styloid, think of a salivary primary, like here, no? The different lesions in the parotid. For post-styloid region, think of either a nerve, a vessel, okay, being involved, or a node. Okay, so for post-styloid region, it's neurovascular. For pre-styloid, it's salivary by nature. For salivary gland tumors, most are benign. Okay, they are slow growing and well circumscribed. The incidence of malignancy is inversely related to its size. No? The larger the gland, the smaller the chance it harbors malignancy. Okay, such that in the parotid, 20% of the lesions are malignant, 80% are benign. In contrast, in the sublingual gland, being the smallest, 80% of lesions are malignant, only 20% are benign. The following are considered clinical malignant features. No? If the lesion is rapidly growing, associated with paresthesia, there is pain and trismus, the likelihood of malignancy is higher. Okay, diagnostic imaging, take note, is the standard evaluating tool, aided only with an FNA. Okay, so FNA preoperatively is not mandatory for a salivary gland tumor. The final histopathologic diagnosis is done via surgical excision by way of a superficial or a total parotidectomy. Okay, classification, epithelial, non-epithelial, and metastatic. For the epithelial group, pleomorphic adenoma, okay, is the most common, okay, lesion to remember. While shaving, a 45-year-old man notices a marble-sized mass beneath his left ear. The mass is eventually excised, revealing which of the following benign parotid gland lesions. So we answer D, pleomorphic adenoma. For benign epithelial and non-epithelial tumors, the minimal or the minimum surgery for the parotid is a superficial parotidectomy with facial nerve identification and preservation, and enucleation is not recommended to prevent recurrence. Okay, remember the facial nerve is the only motor nerve that supplies the muscles of facial expression, and it has 5 terminal branches coming from the main trunk. So we have temporal, zygomatic, buccal, mandibular, and cervical. Okay, and that is why in parotid surgeries, okay, we take time identifying where the main trunk of the facial nerve is, because the main trunk of the facial nerve will enter, okay, the parotid gland itself before it splits, giving rise to its 5 terminal branches. No, the facial nerve itself divides the parotid into a superficial and a deep lobe. Okay, so intraoperatively, what are the landmarks in finding the main trunk of the facial nerve? First is the external auditory canal cartilage, the so-called tragal pointer. Okay, the facial nerve is said to be 1 centimeter deep and inferior to the tragal pointer or the cartilage pointer. Next is the styloid process. The nerve is deep, okay, or the styloid process is deep to the facial nerve. And last is the posterior belly of the digastric, or is said to be superficial to the nerve. Okay, so right after identifying the main trunk, all the 5 terminal branches will be followed. No? The dissection must be maintained above the plane of the nerve if one is doing a superficial, okay, parotidectomy. Okay, one common complication, I do not have that in the slide. No? If you want to read further, no, look for Frey syndrome, no? Frey syndrome or Frey syndrome or post-gustatory sweating is a complication of parotid surgery that happens when the auriculotemporal nerve, okay, is injured during the surgery. No, after the surgery, you will see the patient, okay, sweating in this region, okay, because of misinnervation, no, instead of the sweat glands, okay, or instead of the sweat glands, the parotid gland that has been previously dissected, it now innervates the skin. Okay, so whenever the patient is stimulated to salivate, okay, like seeing food, okay, you will see these patients wiping this area of the face because of, okay, the sweat, which is saliva. Because how do we know it's saliva? Via the iodine test. No? Iodine is spread on this region. If it turns out blue, there is amylase in the fluid. Okay, so we call that the iodine test for Frey syndrome, a complication of parotid surgery injuring the auriculotemporal nerve. A 43-year-old underwent left parotidectomy. Upon awakening from surgery, paralysis of the left lower lip was observed. This complication was most likely due to injury to which of the following? Okay, paralysis of the left lower lip, facial nerve, marginal mandibular branch. Okay, so for malignant tumors, okay, the most common involving the parotid is mucoepidermoid carcinoma. Okay, the second most common for adults is adenoid cystic carcinoma. Okay, peculiar to this one is that it has propensity for neural spread. Though indolent, okay, it has high propensity for spreading at a distant site. For the pediatric age group, the second most common histology affecting them is actinic cell carcinoma. And then we have carcinoma X pleomorphic adenoma, which is an aggressive tumor, arises from a background of benign mixed tumor. Okay, so for malignant salivary gland tumors, no, like the parotid, okay, the extent of surgery begins with the superficial parotidectomy, again with facial nerve identification and preservation. We only perform a total parotidectomy, meaning inclusion of the deep lobe, with facial nerve identification and preservation only when there is obvious invasion of the deep lobe. Okay, so as much as possible, you want to identify and preserve the facial nerve, but there are instances it needs to be sacrificed. Okay, so one, it is encased by the tumor, or two, just like this in the picture, it's no longer functioning preoperatively. No? So when you tell this patient, Daddy or Tatay, smile, and you see this picture, okay, it tells you the side where the tumor is already affected because of the asymmetry. So you know, come the operation, you will no longer have to spare the facial nerve on this side because it's no longer functioning even preoperatively. So that will need a facial nerve sacrifice. Okay, so for the submandibular gland, it would require an en bloc resection of the gland within the digastric triangle together with the submental and submandibular lymphatics. Okay, the management of the neck will depend. Again, no? So if it's clinically positive, it would warrant an MRND. Okay, even if it's N0, but if the risk of lymph node metastasis exceeds 20%, it would still need an MRND. How do we know? If this is the variant, no? High-grade mucoepidermoid carcinoma. Okay, so if in the parotid surgery, we took pains, no, in identifying the facial nerve. Okay, for submandibular gland excision, we identify two nerves. Okay, the hypoglossal nerve, which is motor to the tongue, and the lingual nerve, which is sensory to the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. Okay, so the submandibular gland is right there at the submandibular triangle or digastric triangle, no? Anterior, posterior belly digastric, and then the mandible right there. Okay, the submandibular gland splits the mylohyoid. That's why, like parotid, we also have superficial and deep lobes, no? Because of the mylohyoid muscle right here. Okay, so those nerves needs to be identified and preserved, no? So that the patient will have sensation and is able to move the tongue after the surgery or submandibular gland excision. Okay, so indications for radiation: positive or extraglandular disease, there is perineural invasion, direct invasion of regional structures, obvious regional metastasis, and a high-grade histology.